of the Merseyside Pensioners Association broadcast. It's not just for pensioners, but for everyone. The Merseyside Pensioners Association is a campaigning organisation. We are affiliated with the National Pensioners Convention. Our motto is fighting for pensioners and all those who follow us. We work with trade unions and a range of community and campaigning groups, fighting for a more equitable and just world. The first MPA podcast was released in March 2020 in response to the pandemic and to enable us to keep the MPA and what we campaign for in the public domain. Well, despite the pandemic, there's been a lot of campaigning to stop the reduction of council services in Liverpool. At the moment, I'm outside the one-stop shop in Wavertree. This is the fourth week that people have been coming out and demonstrating against the proposed closures of these one-stop shops. If these one-stop shops close, they will really impact on the poorest people in our community, in particular pensioners and disabled people. It will also impact on people who don't have access to the internet. A lot of people depend on these one-stop shops to get various services and advice from the council.
I lost my husband in September and I had to register the death. There was a lot of admin to do. I spent hours trying to sort things out. The beauty here is that there's a human being to speak to. And I have to say, I got great praise for the staff who work for the council, the way they helped me and treated me.
Perhaps more importantly, it's just part of a wider series of cuts that are going on in this city, not just in this city, but elsewhere. And we think the campaign's having an effect. We're getting a good response today. People are coming to join us. We're getting lots of support from the drivers going by. But we also hear that maybe about half a dozen or so councillors have written to the acting mayor, Councillor Wendy Simon, saying that they're going to oppose the closure of the one-stop shops. And we think all councillors should do that. They should vote against the budget. They should stop the cuts on the one-stop shops and really take up this fight. That's really what's important in this city today.
So when you cut essential services whilst cutting tax for the rich, you're not democratic. When you're excluding people from society, you're not democratic. The one-stop shops, to me, offer all manner of services. They support people, they direct people to other services, and they just lift and help people to let them know they're not alone.
This is a Labour council, and I know they're faced with, they're saying they're faced with the need for budget cuts. But they're hitting the most vulnerable people in this city. We already know 20% of households don't have access to the internet. There are people who can't afford to pay for a phone bill, can't afford heat, and we're looking at more unemployment. I mean, what everyone says, shops are closing. The most lowest paid people are going to be out of work. They're going to be the people that need to come and use the facilities of the one-stop shops.
There's a good turnout. There's a lot of support from drivers, tooting horns and waving, and it's very heartening. But what's depressing is that the damn thing went ahead anyway, has gone ahead in the teeth of public objection. And this is the awful thing. There seems to be no real accountability.
Thanks to Dave Pedder, Teresa Williamson, Kevin Bean and Julie Lyon-Taylor, the chair of the Merseyside Pensioners Association, who were outside the Wavertree one-stop shop. Those one-stop shop protests are continuing every Friday across Liverpool. Matt Hancock is guilty. Yes, it's true. The UK High Court found Britain's Health Secretary guilty of withholding details of COVID-19 contracts, including a £350 million deal with a finance firm for the supply of 50 million face masks, which couldn't be used because of safety concerns. There was a time when such a verdict would mean the immediate resignation of a minister. But Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer, appears not really concerned by a damning guilty verdict from the highest court in the land. When asked if he would be calling for Hancock's resignation, this is what he said.
I don't want to call for him to resign. I do think he's wrong about the contracts. There's been a lot of problems with the contracts on transparency, on who the contracts have gone to.
What is a real cause of concern is Keir Starmer's apparent indifference to the unlawful behaviour of Matt Hancock. Now that's very strange for a man who was a former director of public prosecutions. It's almost as if he's defending the Tories. Do you think he is a Tory? I would be interested to know what you think. In 1978, Denis Healey was the Labour Chancellor of the Exchequer, and he famously said that an attack from Tory MP Geoffrey Howe was like being savaged by a dead sheep. I wonder if the Leader of the Opposition is suffering from dead sheep syndrome. I suppose that's why Bet365 is pleased to sponsor Keir Starmer. The despicable proposal to give nurses a 1% pay rise demonstrates the government's contempt for NHS workers. Nurses have put their own lives on the line to save us. Over the past 10 years, their pay has been drastically eroded. To make up for this, all NHS workers need a 15% pay rise to make up for this loss. And here's why.
I remember back in March when the pandemic was kind of, just starting, we were just starting to see cases slowly trickling in. There was no such thing as a mask. So there were no masks. And we were being told that, oh, it's just a pneumonia, it's just a cough, it's just...
We have no funding when we are doing sometimes 3 people's jobs because there's not enough staff on the wards. Why is there not enough staff on the wards?
I think they're treating us like primary school children where you go, oh, look, you've behaved really well today, have a sticker. No, we're not having a sticker, a pat on the back, a clap, a badge. We're rejecting any tokenism. It's absolutely disgusting that they think they can just go, yeah, well done, and we're going to forget about it, because we're not going to forget about it, because the things we've seen, people have trauma from the things they've seen. It's really emotional when you think back to the things you've seen, and people aren't just going to forget about that. Nurses and NHS workers all deserve a 15% pay rise. This is an absolute minimum. We deserve 15% pay rise as we've had a 20% pay cut in real terms since 2010. This included a 10-year pay freeze. We work really hard, long hours. We have mental and physical health problems from the shifts we work. We don't get to see our families when we want to. We miss out on occasions. We just dealt with this invisible virus in an absolute war zone of wards that were already hit with by cuts. We've had lack of equipment, and we still managed to look after people and get through this COVID crisis. The government did not get us through the COVID crisis. It was all our key workers and it was all our NHS staff that did. And this is why we all deserve our 15%. And if you want to keep your NHS public, and if you want to keep your NHS staff valued, and you want to keep the Tories from destroying our NHS, then you need to back our 15% campaign, because we want to keep and retain our staff, and we need to keep our patients safe.
That was student nurse Laura Hodder, and we will be following the 15% campaign in future programmes. Stay with us, because later on in the programme I will be talking to the General Secretary of Unite, Len McCluskey, about the Liverpool Labour Council that took on Thatcher in the 1980s. But first, it's time for some music from Liverpool composer and musician Chris Hopkins. Chris wrote this song for the film Austerity Fight.
The system has shut down. We're in Orwell's 84 now. We're the renegades of war now, and we have instructions to build an escape room. We're the last ones to fall down. We're the last ones to break down. We're the last ones who take down instructions for building an escape room. There's only one way forward now. Yeah, run away, down the streets and far away. Run away. Guilty of thought crime, instructions for building an escape room.
Thanks to Chris Hopkins there for his single, An Instruction to Build an Escape Route. That was recorded in 2017, but I think it has a particular poignancy during this time of lockdown in 2021. This year was to be the 150th anniversary of the Durham Miners Gala, but because of the pandemic it's now being cancelled for the second year running. The Gala is a unique and inspiring spectacle. It is Europe's biggest celebration of community, international solidarity and working class culture. More than 200,000 people pack the streets of Durham to enjoy the sights and sounds of the big meeting. Hosted by the Durham Miners Association since 1871, the big meeting is a vibrant carnival of hope and unity. It is a living expression of the Durham Miners' motto, "The past we inherit, the future we build." There is nothing like it anywhere else in the world. I was fortunate to go in 2018 and I interviewed former Labour councillor Tony Mulhern at the event, and I'm delighted now to air the interview for the first time. I asked Tony about the role Liverpool City Council played in supporting the miners during the MUN strike in 1984.
Many of the miners lived in Liverpool, but they worked in Cronson Colliery, Sutton Manor, various collieries within the region. As the 47 joined them on the picket lines at Sutton Manor continuously during the course of the strike, and the City Council was very supportive. We made certificates available for them. We used a penny rate to ensure that they received sufficient food for those who were in a really bad way, and also contributed financially to the miners who lived within the Liverpool area. So the Liverpool 47's record in supporting the miners is unsurpassed. And quite rightly, in our view, we owe the miners a debt of honour because they assist us immensely in our victory over Thatcher when we secured funding worth £60 million to the City Council. The miners played a tremendous role, and we in turn expressed our appreciation by giving them every support.
Tony Mulhern was a stalwart of the MPA, who sadly died just over a year ago. But his legacy obviously lives on. Also at Durham was Tony's colleague and former Labour councillor, Jimmy Hackett.
Well, this is what it's all about, the movement. I was just saying to some of my comrades there that if anyone who's lost faith comes here, you get it back. I came in 1981, and by coming here, it made sure that I had to stand as a councillor from 1983 till when a coup d'etat was used against us by the government, the House of Lords and the leader of the Labour Party, Mr Kinnock. He'd already did the miners in. So, but how do I see the future? I see a future where there's nobody in debt, there's nobody getting evicted from their house, there's no one being saddled with debt that they cannot afford to pay, and the right to the National Health Service. We're going to bring it back, and that's the future.
Thanks to Jimmy Hackett there for that interview in Durham. Before the pandemic, a plaque was unveiled at the Casa in Liverpool to commemorate the 47 Liverpool Labour councillors who stood up to the austerity policies of the Thatcher government. In the 1980s, the Tory government cut local government expenditure across the UK. Councillors in Liverpool refused to implement the cuts and instead improved the lives of the people of Liverpool by building thousands of council homes and creating jobs. The council created parks, demolished slums and established nurseries. This happened at a time when the city was in the grip of economic depression with youth unemployment as high as 90% in some areas. The government initiated a policy of managed decline for Liverpool. Despite this, there was widespread discussion in the city about what to do to defend it. The District Labour Party, with the participation of delegates from trade unions, youth and community organisations and Liverpool MPs, decided to resist the government and defend the people of Liverpool. Unite General Secretary Len McCluskey attended the unveiling of the plaque for the 47, and I asked him what he thought of the Liverpool Labour Council at that time.
It was an incredible period in the early and mid-80s with a Liverpool City Council that was prepared to stand face to face with the full might of the Thatcher administration and say, we're not going to cut jobs, we're not going to cut services, we are going to build homes for our community. And these are brave, brave people who stood firm, and the people of Liverpool stood firm with them, and they were heady days. You know, there was a lot, virtually everyone was against the City Council, obviously Thatcher and the elite, but also the Labour Party elite and leadership, Neil Kinnock, and I have to say, virtually all of the general secretaries of the trade unions, because there was a belief that militant tendency and it was the wrong thing to do. But you know what? They never lost a single election. And when we used to go out and knock on the doors in Liverpool and ask people, were they worried about the scare tactics of the Marxists taking over, the answer we got consistently was absolutely not. We're just delighted that we've got people who are prepared to stand up and fight for us. And it was heartwarming to drive into the new estate, small, beautiful houses that had been built, 2 up, 2 down, brick front, not 2 up, 2 down, front and back garden, beautiful semi-detached houses, and see Labour posters everywhere. So they were heady days, and they deserve to be remembered because those battles are still being fought today. And our message has got to go to Labour councillors everywhere that we have to stand together and oppose the cuts that are being implemented on our communities by this uncaring Tory government.
Len McCluskey there with the lessons to be learnt from the struggle of Liverpool Labour Council in the 1980s against the Thatcher government. As there will be no Durham Miners Gala this year, I'll leave you with some of the scenes from the last one before the pandemic. Thanks to all the contributors to the programme, and thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. The programme was produced by Hazwan Hashim, and we both say, stay safe and solidarity to you all.